Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio today. My normal partners in crime, we've got Preston, the sports cheetah, and Brian Leonard. And guys, we're going to take a look. It's baseball trade deadline, or as I like to refer to it, it's when GMs sell their souls to the devil with some of these trades, trying to get their team over the hump. And we've got a lot of teams at this time of the year that, buyers, sellers every year. You got to make that distinction of, are you going to throw the towel in and, build for the future, or are you going to go after it? The Cubs definitely are a team that's, been active in the big trade, getting their closer. They got Chapman, but this is one of those ones. Did they sell their soul to do it? Because they gave up one of their, best prospects, Gleyber Torres. What do you guys think about that move?
Well, usually teams overpay when they're getting somebody in like this. You know what Chapman is. Chapman's going to be great for them, but they only have him for probably 30 innings. So if he goes free agent and leaves them, they're stuck with 30 innings off of this guy. Prospects are so hard. He's 19 years old. Yeah. It's just so hard to project. So you never know what he's going to get. A lot of people get all excited about the prospects, but we can go back and talk about big name prospects that never even made it to the majors before. So most of the time, teams overpay. I'm not sure the Yankees, I don't think the Cubs overpaid in this instance. But
you're looking at, it wasn't that it was a total disaster at the end of the, the bullpen. The problem for the Cubs right now has really not been the tail end. Their starting pitching that was so good, if you look at that lineup at the beginning of the season, has hit a slump right now where, you got Jake Arrieta's, how long since he's had, a stellar start. Lackey and Lester's been, up and down. They're not getting the innings that they need on the front end, and all of a sudden a team that looked like a shoe-in right now is, not as strong as they were and, limping to the wire.
Yeah, you wonder if, just getting Chapman might be a confidence booster for the whole team. But you're right, it might not actually address the main issue. Any bullpen's going to struggle if the starting pitchers aren't getting into the 6th or 7th inning for you night in, night out. So I agree with Brian in general. I remember reading that they were trying to get Chapman to maybe agree to some extension before they made the offer, and he wouldn't do it. So it could be that they're only getting him for this run. And if that's the case, then they probably overpaid. I don't think he's the difference between a World Series and not. More often than not, he won't be the difference. And then Torres could totally not be a name in a couple of years. So it could go either way, and we'll kind of just have to wait and see.
Preston, one of the teams I know you're a fan of, the LA Dodgers, they're a team right now that, because of the starting pitching with Kershaw being on the shelf and, we're looking at least probably 3 weeks yet before he comes back. If he makes it back, what do the Dodgers do? They need to, shore up the starting pitching, but, what's out there?
Yeah, that's the question. As a fan, like you said, I totally want them to buy someone, whatever it costs. They're kind of in it more so than I thought and expected. It's helped that the Giants, since the All-Star break, are now like 2-8 or whatever it is. And if Kershaw comes back, then that's going to be fantastic. And if they can do it with another arm out there, the question is, like, Chris Sale really available? I know the White Sox won a ton for him, but now there's some issues there with him and the White Sox recently, so maybe his price kind of got a little cheaper. If you could bring Chris Sale over to the Dodgers, I would be all over it. I don't care what it costs. It's really hard. We've heard the conversation before. If you have a chance to win a World Series in one season, I remember the Nationals had a chance a few years ago with Steven Strasburg, and they shut him down. They're probably not going to be winning a World Series. They haven't since, and who knows if they will this year or in the future. But if you have a chance, I think you got to go for it. Your fans want it, the players want it, and the management obviously would like it too. So hopefully some of these teams do make a few more moves and we see some mixing up.
Brian, some of the names in starting pitching is always, the key component that people are looking for. Every team needs the help, and we could run off a lot of teams that, definitely, are in contention or even in first place, and you look at their starting pitching and you scratch your head and say, how are they still here where they're at? One of those teams is the Baltimore Orioles. You look at them, they got Tillman has been solid all year, and then Gosman. But after that, what do you got on Baltimore that you can be confident with?
Yeah, that's a good point. And unfortunately, I thought Baltimore was going to struggle with pitching all season long, and they've actually done better than what I thought. And, the thing with going for this is the problem I have with it. Right now, there's so many teams that are still in it. We saw this with the Milwaukee Brewers when they brought on CC Sabathia a few years ago, and they gave up the Indians. They gave them a ton of prospects. Some of these teams are not going to make the playoffs. We talked about early in the season when Philadelphia started off hot, even their sports writers were saying they're a 500 team. No, they're not a 500 team. Everybody's overestimating themselves, and you'd hate for somebody to go out and bring in a guy on a short-term contract and give up some of your guys in the minors, and you don't even make the playoffs.
Like James Shields, example, in the way.
Right.
Which that name's actually being surfaced again. The White Sox want to get, which
They had a good start.
Why did they even why did they even go for him? I don't know what they were thinking about. But as bad as the market is right now, some of the names that are out there, you just mentioned Philadelphia. There's clubs interested in Jeremy Hellickson. That's a guy that's a fourth or fifth starter.
Said he wanted a top 5 prospect from one of these teams for Jeremy Hellickson. Is he ever going to get it?
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
No.
One of the names that's out there that I hear, and I don't know that they'll really do it or not, but it would, this is a guy that I know you liked at the beginning of the season. I like too. Sonny Gray. He's not lived up to his potential this year. He's having an off year. The whole Oakland A's team's having an off year. But that's a name shopping around. Do you make a trade and give up on Sonny Gray to try to get something to build for the future after they burn it down last year, or the year before selling or sold?
Yeah, they could. He had a good start against the Rangers recently and won. I think the start before that he pitched well, and then they blew a save, a 2-run save or something like a 2-run lead, I should say, in the ninth. And so his last few starts have been good. Maybe teams are looking at that, thinking. I know he had a short injury stint too, and he's kind of been playing through an injury as well. But the A's, I think, believe he's their ace and their number one guy going forward if they're ever going to be good, at least for now. So I don't think they're going to be trading him. It's interesting. I haven't actually heard his name yet. So if he does kind of spark some rumors, it'll be interesting if teams go after him, because I think he's still a young stud that can be obviously really helpful come playoff time.
And you really have to look at the payrolls of these teams and what they can afford. Nobody's going to go to Oakland as a free agent. Nobody's going to go to Cleveland as a free agent. They just don't have the money to pay these guys what they want to get. So this is a way for those kind of teams at this time of the season to take the shot. And I know when John Hart was at Cleveland, he would bring guys in, and the winning attitude and just the way the team was run, hopefully that would keep them around for more than their contract and get them to re-sign again.
Well, that's the formula for Billy Beane, though, is give away a veteran to get prospects that you're not going to have to pay for several years. And get the value of it before that first contract ends. So we'll see. It's always a fun time to watch, and if you're a fan of a team and you're on the border of buyer or seller at the market, you always like to see what it is. But then as a fan too, when you see your team and you still have hopes in it, and then you see them go to the seller side, it's pretty deflating, and it's an angle to watch for handicapping as well, which when we get into our question and answer session, we have a couple questions leaning that way. So good stuff, guys. Hey, and don't forget, every weekend all access at wagertalk.com. Pick your favorite capper. Thursday through Monday, you can get all of his plays, just $69. Check it out each and every weekend at wagertalk.com. We'll be back with more here at Wager Talk.